T watches a scary movie. My name is T, and of course, we're talking scary movies. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new episode. Remember, new episodes go up every Wednesday night, audio version at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can find that on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search T Watches a Scary Movie. And if you're looking at this handsome face, that means you're watching the video version. Video version can be found on YouTube at youtube.com/C/ Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Again, that's youtube.com/C/ Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. So, what do we have to talk about tonight? We are well deep into September. It is the 21st night of September. Had to do that because some of y'all might know I also work as a DJ for one of my jobs as well too, and I've had 3 weddings so far in the past week, and I still got more to come. And obviously September's a big song, so it has nothing to do with horror in the least bit. I'm just saying, either way, now it is the 21st of September here, and we got some fun stuff to talk tonight. We are going to be talking The Invitation in movie reviews, and we got a little bit of horror news for y'all tonight as well too. Which, first things first, I want to get right into the Hellraiser trailer. Yeah, folks, if you did not see it, if you've been living under a rock somehow, Hulu has been well into making a new adaptation of the Hellraiser franchise, a new entry. And here's the thing, you know, it could be a reboot. It could be a sequel. We don't really have to distinguish that too much. All we know is that this is the most high-profile Hellraiser release that we've had in probably 15 to 20 years at this point now. And folks, the what I assume is the final trailer was just released here earlier this week, and it looks amazing. Absolutely amazing, folks. And this is coming from a guy who is not that big of a Hellraiser fan. It's not that I don't like Hellraiser. I really do enjoy Hellraiser for sure. But as I've gotten older, gore just has not sat that well with me. And I still watch gory movies, but it's like one of those, gotta like go through the eyes, gotta turn away and everything now. And Hellraiser is the worst of the worst when you really think about it now, because besides all the many ways that like victims have been killed across the course of that series, we know at the end of the day, Pinhead, our guy, the main Cenobite, that man is using the chains and the hooks, and it's basically like if someone wanted to kill you with a bunch of fish hooks now. It's painful, it's gruesome, it's cringe, it's fantastic, but your boy has trouble dealing with that. And I've been kind of counting down the days for this to come out, because it's coming out October 7th on Hulu as part of their annual Huluween celebration, and it looks amazing, folks. And think about it like this. I've talked before about how in the Hellraiser series, I actually really enjoy a lot of the later entries more than the earlier ones, just because in the later entries, we got a lot of well-known directors like Scott Derrickson showed up to do one, to where it's basically a story that's not really a Hellraiser story, but then we just put the Cenobites and Pinhead in it, and then we go from there. Basically, everything after like Hellraiser 4 was kind of like that, to where it's just a random story that probably would have been perfectly fine without Pinhead and the rest of the Cenobites, and then they put them in there, and it just clicks, and it works so well together. Now that said, I do enjoy the first 4 of the series as well too, that are really focused on Christy Cotton and Pinhead together and all that stuff now. And we have no idea what this next one is coming from here, because here's the thing. We know for a fact that this is going to be Pinhead's returning, played by Jamie Clayton from Sense8, and the thing is that we don't know, is this the same Pinhead? Is this just another iteration? I don't know if it matters that much, because it's not like we've had much in the way of continuity across most of the Hellraiser like movies that have been out there. Like the first 2 for sure, they focus on Christy Cotton. We get Christy back later on, and I believe it's the 6th entry, I want to say it is, she comes back and plays a role in that as well too. But the thing is that unlike a lot of these other horror series, we haven't really had to rely on the continuity between them. So I don't think it would be that bad to just say this is another random occurrence where somebody finds Lament configuration, that's the puzzle box, and they open it up and all hell breaks loose. But it looks tremendous, y'all. Looks bloody. We even saw the Chatterer is back. The Chatterer Cenobite is going to be back in this one as well too. But oh my God, y'all can see the clips I'm putting up here for it. You gotta go and watch this full trailer because we only really have a couple weeks and then this bad boy is coming out and it's about to wreck some fucking lives, y'all. I've already said that I'm not ready for it. I'm ready for it, but I'm not ready for it in the least bit because it looks so fucking good. And that's amazing because it's just showing you the power that these days direct to streaming isn't a bad market at all, especially for horror. That is one of the places where horror can absolutely thrive at. So let's hope this does well because I think it's inevitable we'll get sequels. But the question is, what will the quality of those sequels be? Will they be like it's been in the recent 10 to 15 years now to where they're kind of lower budget? Maybe the story's not as grand. We don't know. But I'm definitely hoping that this movie works out so well that we can get some good quality sequels to follow it up. Who knows? But only a couple weeks away. Next, we got some gameplay footage on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that's coming out, folks. Perhaps you've heard me talk about that before, coming from the same people who brought us the Friday the 13th video game, which is absolutely one of my favorite games of the past 20 years, mainly because I'm a Friday the 13th fanatic. But also just because the gameplay is super, super fun. The fact that you can have so many camp counselors together up against Jason and still get your ass whooped now is so much fun. And the idea of this Texas Chainsaw Massacre game is that they're going to change the format from what we're known from games like Friday the 13th or from Dead by Daylight to where it's usually like 1 versus 4 or 1 versus another number there to where now, yeah, we still have the four victims that you could play as, but now on the villain side, you have 3. You have a team of 3 there. And of course, that consists of the cook, the hitchhiker, and Leatherface. And man, they dropped the gameplay video for that today. And y'all, this game is gonna slay. That is the only phrase I can give for it because it looks so good. Some of the details were revealed there that the victims are going to start off in the basement of Leatherface's house. And I'm hesitant to say the last name because I don't know if we're going Sawyer, if we're going Hewitt, whatever it is here. But you start off in the basement of Leatherface's house. And the goal is to escape because you can't defeat the family. Unlike Friday the 13th, this is not one of those times where you can actually beat the villains. You have to escape and get out alive. And in some of this video play, man, it's gonna be scary, y'all. It's gonna be so exhilarating and so exciting to play. And I don't know who I'm gonna enjoy playing as more because it actually seems like there's gonna be some legitimate scares here playing as the victim, which is an experience that we don't get that much even in horror games. Like with Friday the 13th, that game can absolutely get the better of you if you're playing as one of the camp counselors and Jason just randomly warps to where you're at. Oh, that can definitely be scary. But something about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is just a little bit more scary knowing it's a very much a confined environment. Like we're not in a camp at this point. As far as we know, there are going to be other maps. But as far as we know, we're at at Leatherface's house. And in the surrounding area, and that's not that big. And I don't mean that to say that to crap on the level design or anything like that, but it's very enclosed. It's probably going to be a very claustrophobic feeling, and the fact that Leatherface or the hitchhiker or the cook could just be around the corner, ooh, that looks scary as hell. Wes Keltner, give me the beta. I want to be a part of the beta for this because this game looks absolutely amazing. It's a day one purchase for sure. And again, y'all can see some of the clips I'm putting up here for it now. You gotta check this out because if you're a fan of these asymmetrical multiplayer horror games, then this is the one. This is the one that you're definitely gonna want to get into. And again, all I can do is push you to try out Friday the 13th before this game comes out here because it does look like it's going to be coming out spring 2023 is kind of where it's seeming like it's coming out for. It would be nice if we could have gotten a surprise Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie to go right alongside with it, like the Netflix one that we got that was super fun this year. But we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with that. But y'all got to check it out. Go to IGN to check out the full gameplay video that's up here right now. So, with that, let's get into our movie review of the night. Y'all know we are well underway here into the horror season. I always start it beginning of September. September 1st is the day, and some of y'all have been tuning in for the movie marathons we've been doing. We actually just got done doing our vampire movie marathon just the day before. We watched some great ones, including Buffy the Vampire Slayer, What We Do in the Shadows, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, amongst others. But we also watched The Invitation. Now, some of you have probably seen the trailer for that because The Invitation came out back in August, and a lot of folks saw it and were very much comparing it to 2019's Ready or Not. And you might remember Ready or Not, that's told the story of Samara Weaving's character, Grace Ladomas, who's getting married to her new beau, Alex, and finds out that the family plays a new game every time that somebody is brought into the family as a way to keep their wealth and fortune. And I can't really go further than that, 10-year rule and all there. But if you watch it, it is a hoot. It is a ball of fun. It is fantastic. It's a great spooky season watch now. And funny enough, it is made by Radio Silence, the guys, the team that made Scream 5, which was a phenomenal film that came out at the beginning of this year as well. So, you wouldn't be remiss if you saw the trailer for The Invitation and got flashbacks of Ready or Not for it, because that's the way that it very much seemed. The story tells of Natalie Emanuel's Evie Jackson, who has no family. She's living in New York, and again, she's just trying to get by. She works as a server at a lot of these like high profile, very rich and swanky events where she's largely ignored and harassed by her customers. And due to a chance circumstance where a friend of hers takes a grab bag from one of these events, she decides to do one of those DNA tests like 23andMe or Ancestry.com to see if there happens to be anybody else out there in her family, because she's lost her mother, she's lost her father, and she's just looking for somebody to connect with. And this is when she's introduced to her cousin, Oliver, who basically explains that she has a whole wide extended range of family members who live overseas in London, and that all of them are overjoyous to learn of her existence, and they all want to meet her. And Evie is whisked away to overseas to Europe, to where she's gonna go and attend this wedding that Oliver and the rest of the Alexanders are also attending on the estate of Walter DeVille. Now, there are some giveaways right off the back now. With a name like DeVille, there's an obvious connection there that I'm sure y'all can pick up in Cruella. And no, this is not a Disney movie. There's no actual like connection, but that was always the thing, that, you know, DeVille, devil, obviously. And as we see this story of the unassuming Evie, Evie's honestly in a bit of a better position than Grace ended up being in Ready or Not, because Ready or Not is very much played up the comedic aspects of it to start and throughout the film. And I don't say that negatively, but it takes a while for Grace to realize that something else might be going on, and she might not be in the safest position as the game begins and people start to die. Whereas with The Invitation, Evie, for the most part, suspects that something could be going on. Like, she sees the way that, some of the higher end staff, for example, Mr. Field, who, again, a very, very telling name once we get to that part. But Mr. Field is rude to some of the wait staff, and Evie, coming from, the working class, obviously doesn't respect that. And then when Walter DeVille, the owner of the estate, played by Thomas Doherty, shows up, again, she's trying to put some manners into him as well, too, because this is obviously a man of wealth, a man of privilege, and is used to doing things however they want to, and not really having to think twice about it. And he's very much taken aback by Evie's headstrong nature, and the fact that she's very straight, she's very forward about what she thinks, and she's gonna say what she wants to say as well too. Now, over the course of The Invitation, the question always is whose wedding is she there for? Because we seemingly are keeping missing glances of this bride and this groom. So we don't know whose wedding she's actually there for, but things begin to get weirder and weirder, as some of the wait staff begins to disappear, And during a spa session, Evie pricks her finger while getting her nails done, and one of the ladies of the house sucks her fingers. And that leads to the surprising and scary revelation that Evie is dealing with vampires. Now, hopefully that's not a huge spoiler to the rest of you, because I'm fairly positive that was told in the trailer for this. But the thing is that I don't know if that's a strong enough twist, so to speak, to really power this movie through. And I want to say this from the jump. I enjoyed this movie. I did enjoy The Invitation, but I would be lying if I said that in comparison to Ready or Not, I liked it just as much as I enjoyed Ready or Not, or definitely more, because that was not it in the least bit. The stories are eerily similar in the setup, in the execution of it, but the difference is that Ready or Not got to things really quickly. The Invitation is, it's 104 minutes long. It's not that long there. And Ready or Not is 95 minutes. So it's about 10 minutes less, about an hour and a half for Ready or Not versus, an hour 40, hour 45 for The Invitation. And yet and still, Ready or Not kind of chops up that runtime very, very quickly. We get the exposition out of the way very early on, very quick in a short amount of time, and then as the movie keeps going through, we keep getting those tidbits of information with it. Whereas The Invitation, my good friend Eric mentioned this, but it kind of felt like two entirely different movies being told in one film. To where the first movie is like this thriller, like it's this erotic, suspenseful thriller, to where this girl's a fish out of water, and she might have found love, but there's a dark secret that might be stopping this from going anywhere the way that she wants it to. But then we change gears, and suddenly it's a vampire movie at that. And it's hard because I don't just want to jump into spoilers, but I kind of have to. So if you don't want direct spoilers, I kind of got to break the 10-year rule here about a couple of things. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but turn this off now if you are trying to watch this and don't want huge spoilers coming out of this. We find out that it's not just a vampire story, but it is a Dracula story that Thomas Walter, or excuse me, I say Thomas Walter, Thomas Doherty is the actor, but Walter DeVille is actually Dracula. And this story is actually the tale of the brides of Dracula, because typically, as we've seen in popular culture, Dracula's home, is full with like the three brides. They're always after Jonathan Harker, and they end up getting slayed later on in like most of the adaptations and everything. And that's what the story is trying to tell, is that Dracula is trying to get his third bride, and that third bride happens to be Evie. And a lot of the staples from Dracula are there. For example, Sean Pertwee, that plays Mr. Field. Well, Mr. Field, even though it's not revealed, can obviously be a short name for Renfield, who is very popularly Dracula's assistant. There's the Renfield movie that's coming out next year with Nicholas Hoult and Nick Cage as well too as Dracula. Two Nicholases. Didn't even think about that. But then also we have the Harkers in the story as well too. We surprisingly don't get any Van Helsings in this at all, which I found very interesting. But the film itself doesn't give us enough of this vampire story, and I think that was overall my biggest problem with it, was that the first part of the story was actually really, really interesting. And I'm sure they could have added a few more like horrific or a few more scares to it to build more of that first part of the story up. But then when we switch gears and just dive right into the vampire stuff, there's just not enough time with it. There's not enough experiences with it at all. And it also doesn't really help that in Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is the comparison I have to make, or even Dracula 2000, Dracula himself is such a presence across those films that we don't mind the fact that there's not a lot of vampires in it. Like, this is not Blade, this is not The Lost Boys, this is not Daybreakers, any of those other really popular vampire films that are out there. This is not those stories to where we have all these vampires and hunters and hunting them down or anything like that. And Bram Stoker's Dracula, even Dracula 2000, which I really enjoy, didn't have to do that because Dracula is such a commanding presence. And no offense in the least bit to Thomas Doherty, because that good looking man. That dude has the jawline for ages. Like, that is a handsome guy for sure. Bite me, whatever. I'm in. I am absolutely in for that. I will be the man bride of Dracula. But that's not the thing. He doesn't get enough screen time, I almost feel. And I understand. It's Natalie Emanuel's story. This is Evie's story for sure. I have zero issues with that. But the problem is that I don't think the vampire elements live up when we don't get enough time with our, potential villain. When we don't get enough time with his scheme and doing more Dracula type of things. And unlike Ready or Not, to where Ready or Not seems like it's confined, but when you really think about it, that house, that mansion that they're in, the grounds of it, that's gigantic. Here in The Invitation, Carfax Abbey, because they are at Carfax Abbey, by the way, which is another pickup right away, again, from Dracula lore, it just doesn't seem as big as it should be. And it doesn't feel like I'm in a world of, Dracula and vampires at that point. And to that extent, I guess it seems realistic. Because some of the weaknesses that vampires have and all this other lore don't exist in this one, and that's fine. I think that's good to not do it. So it's kind of like it's a realistic vampire tale, but that also very much leaves you longing for more in this. There's some fun to it. Again, I keep saying her name, but Natalie Emanuel is a fantastic actor. Whether it's Game of Thrones, whether it's this, Fast and Furious, whatever now, I do think she has such a captivating presence that when she's saying something, you really do feel there's a lot of heart, there's a lot of emotion behind what she does have to say. Everything is important. And most of the times throughout this movie where she's catching red flags about the situation, or she's standing up for the wait staff or anything, you really follow her. It's you know what? I'm convinced. I back you on your thoughts here for sure. But I would have either committed to that one story or maybe just introduce the vampires a little bit earlier on. And that's not to say we don't get vampire stuff earlier on in the movie. It's just not enough. The balance wasn't there. It's erotic thriller, vampire. This was the balance that we got out of that, and it just could have been handled just a little bit better in my opinion. But who knows? That's not for me to say. There is an R-rated version of this apparently out there that the director Jessica Thompson has said that she's hoping to release. I don't know if that's the unrated version that I watched. I don't believe it is, because not much of it seemed that different, honestly. So I'm hoping that means there's going to be the R-rated release of this sometime soon, and it'll add a little bit more into it. It's not bad, but you'll watch this and you're very much gonna take a look at Ready or Not and be yeah, I'd probably watch Ready or Not instead. That said, though, this film did great in theaters on a $10 million budget. It made $30 million so far. Video sales are about to start coming out as well too, so it's honestly making good money, which is what we want for horror one way or the other, so people can take more chances on stories like these. So check out The Invitation. It's available to rent and to purchase right now on most of your popular streaming platforms, Prime, Vudu, Movies Anywhere. Go and check that one out, y'all. That's The Invitation. Hey everybody, I appreciate you checking out this video, whether it was a review, whether it was a new episode, whether it was an unboxing, an interview, or whatever else. I want to remind you can check out my separate reviews also on my YouTube page, and new full episodes go up every Wednesday night on YouTube at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and on your favorite podcasting platforms at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and share. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.